Let's clear up a misunderstanding that trips up a lot of men when they first start hearing about the idea of having standards in a relationship, because it's often twisted into something it was never meant to be. Having boundaries, knowing clearly what you will and won't accept, understanding what kind of effort and respect you actually expect to receive in return for what you give, is not some manipulative power play. It's not about making someone jump through hoops to prove they deserve you. It's not a game where you withhold affection strategically to seem more desirable. If that's how it's being framed, it's being framed wrong. At its core, having standards is simply about refusing to abandon yourself for someone else's convenience. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's not complicated and it's not manipulative. It's basic self-respect. Here's what that actually looks like in practice, because it's important to be specific instead of vague about this. Having standards means noticing when you're consistently the one initiating contact, planning the time together, keeping the conversation going, while the other person just coasts along, responding when convenient and rarely reaching first. It means paying attention to whether your effort is being met with anything close to equal effort, or whether you're the only one actually building the relationship while the other person just enjoys the benefits of it. It means being willing to say, honestly and without guilt, this doesn't feel right to me, when something genuinely doesn't. None of that is about punishing someone or playing games. It's about being honest with yourself regarding what a healthy, mutual dynamic actually requires, and refusing to accept less than that just because you're scared of losing someone. And here's why this actually matters so much, beyond just feeling better in the moment. A relationship where only one person is consistently showing up isn't romantic, no matter how it gets dressed up or explained away. It's lopsided. It's imbalanced. An imbalance left unaddressed doesn't magically correct itself over time just because one person keeps hoping it will. What actually happens, almost without fail, is that the person doing all the giving, the one initiating, planning, remembering details, showing up consistently, eventually starts to feel resentful. Not because they're bitter or ungrateful people, but because resentment is simply what happens when someone keeps giving and giving without receiving anything close to equal energy back. It builds slowly, quietly, under the surface, until one day it either explodes in an argument that seems to come out of nowhere, or it just sits there hardening into distance and disconnection. And underneath that resentment, almost always is a deeper feeling. The feeling of being unseen, of pouring effort into someone who never really noticed or never really matched it. That's one of the loneliest feelings a person can have inside a relationship, being present, giving everything, and still feeling invisible. So when you hold on to your standards, when you're clear with yourself about what mutual respect and mutual effort actually look like, and you're willing to walk away from situations that don't offer, that you're not playing hard to get. You're not running a strategy. You're simply refusing to disappear into a dynamic that would slowly hollow you out. And here's the thing that's easy to miss. Having that clarity doesn't make you harder to love. It actually makes it possible to be loved properly, because you're no longer accepting a version of connection that leaves you empty. You're holding space for something that's actually balanced, actually mutual, actually sustainable, instead of quietly settling for less and calling it patience. There's a version of emotional strength that gets talked about a lot, especially in advice aimed at men. And on the surface, it sounds appealing, but it's actually a distorted, watered-down version of what real strength looks like. It's the idea that staying grounded means never reacting to anything, never letting anyone see that something affected you, treating silence and emotional withdrawal like a weapon you can wield to stay in control of a situation. The message underneath it is basically, don't feel, or at least don't show that you feel. Because feeling things and showing it makes you look weak and gives other people power over you. And on the surface, that can look like composure. It can look like someone who's above the drama, unbothered, unshakable. But if you actually pull back the curtain on what's happening underneath, it's not strength at all. It's avoidance dressed up in more convincing packaging. Here's the important distinction, because it changes everything once you actually see it clearly. Real emotional strength was never about not feeling things. Feeling frustration when something unfair happens. Feeling hurt when someone you care about lets you down. Feeling disappointment when things don't go the way you hoped. None of that is weakness. That's just being a person with an actual emotional life rather than a robot performing detachment for an audience. Suppressing those feelings, pretending they're not there, going cold and silent to avoid ever appearing affected, that's not maturity. That's a defense mechanism. And defense mechanisms, no matter how composed they look from the outside, usually come from the same place: fear. Fear of being hurt again. Fear of appearing vulnerable. Fear of what it might mean about you if someone can see that you're actually affected by something. Actual strength looks different. And it's honestly a lot harder to build than the cold, detached version, because it requires you to do something much more demanding. Fully feel whatever you're feeling, the frustration, the hurt, the disappointment, whatever it is, without pushing it away or numbing yourself to it, and then still choose to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting on impulse. That's the real skill. Not the absence of feeling, but the presence of feeling combined with the discipline to not let that feeling run the show. It's the difference between snapping at someone the second you're upset versus taking a breath, sitting with the discomfort for a moment, and then communicating clearly and calmly about what's actually bothering you. It's the difference between going completely silent and cold for days to punish someone versus being honest and saying, hey, that hurt and here's why. Even though that kind of honesty feels more exposed and more uncomfortable than just shutting down ever would. And here's the part that really matters, the part that separates genuine strength from the performance of it. None of this is about controlling how someone else feels about you. It was never supposed to be a strategy to make yourself seem more mysterious or more desirable by withholding your reactions. That's manipulation. Wearing the costume of maturity, and it doesn't actually build anything real, even when it seems to work in the short term. What real emotional groundedness is actually for is much simpler and much more personal. It's about not being ruled by every single fluctuation in someone else's mood. It's about being able to stay steady in yourself even when someone else is going through something difficult, being distant, or having a bad day, without that instability immediately hijacking your own emotional state and dragging you down with it. That's not coldness. That's not a power move. It's just the ability to remain a stable, whole person, capable of real feeling and real honesty without losing yourself every time someone else's emotions shift. That's what actual strength looks like. Not silence, not detachment, not a poker face, just someone who can feel deeply and still stay steady, and who's honest enough to let that show. Before we wrap up, I want to be really clear about something, because it's the whole point of everything we just talked about, and I don't want it to get lost. None of this, not one part of it, was about cracking some universal code on what women want. If you came into this video hoping for a formula, a set of exact steps that will work on literally any woman you meet, guaranteed every time, I need to be honest with you, that formula doesn't exist. And anyone selling it to you as if it does is selling you something that isn't true. Women aren't a monolith. They're not one single type of person who all respond to the exact same triggers, the exact same words, the exact same behaviors. They're individuals, just like men are individuals, shaped by different experiences, different values, different personalities, different things that matter to them. What makes one person feel deeply respected, drawn in, and genuinely interested in someone is not going to be identical to what does that for the next person. Treating an entire gender like a puzzle with one universal solution isn't just inaccurate, it actually sets you up to fail because you end up performing a script instead of actually connecting with the specific human being in front of you. So if there's no universal formula, what actually works? This is the part that matters most, so pay close attention. What actually works consistently, reliably, across every situation isn't a set of tactics you deploy on someone else. It's who you are when nobody's watching, when there's no one to impress, when there's no relationship on the line at all. It's having your own direction in life, goals you're actually working toward, things that matter to you regardless of your relationship status. It's having your own standards, knowing clearly what kind of treatment, respect, and effort you're willing to accept, and being willing to walk away from anything that falls short of that, not as a threat, but as simple self-respect. And it's having a sense of your own worth that isn't hooked up to someone else's attention like a battery that only charges when they text back quickly or compliment you enough. That sense of worth needs to come from inside you, built through your own actions, your own integrity, your own relationship with yourself, so that it stays steady no matter what anyone else does or doesn't do. Here's why that distinction matters so much, and it's worth sitting with for a second. When you build genuine direction, genuine standards, and a genuine sense of your own worth, you're not performing confidence anymore. You're not putting on an act, managing how you come across, calculating your next move to seem more appealing. You actually have it. And there's a massive difference between performed confidence and real confidence, even if they can look similar on the surface for a little while. Performed confidence cracks under pressure. It falls apart the moment things get uncertain, the moment someone pulls away, the moment life doesn't go according to plan, because it was never real to begin with, just a mask held up by effort. Real confidence doesn't crack the same way, because it's not dependent on the situation staying favorable. It's built from the inside, from actually knowing who you are and what you stand for. And that kind of foundation holds steady even when things around you don't. And look, at the end of the day, this was never really about learning how to get someone to like you or stay with you or choose you over someone else. It goes deeper than that. It's about becoming a man who's genuinely whole on his own, someone with real direction, real standards, and a real settled sense of his own worth. Because that's not just what tends to draw the right people toward you naturally without forcing it or performing it. It's also honestly just a better way to live, relationship or no relationship, attention or no attention. That's the whole video. If any part of this actually landed for you, if you felt yourself nodding along or recognizing yourself in something we talked about, you already know what to do. Sit with it, apply it, and start becoming that person, one honest choice at a time.